everyone, I'm Cassandra.
And I'm Mom.
And this is Millennial and Mom, and in today's video we are here to recap Married at First Sight Season 11, Episode 5, The Honeymoon Begins. And I'm really excited to see who's going to mesh well in this episode. So, let's get into the review. We usually start off the episode by going by couple to couple, but this episode was all over the place. We have to start from the beginning. But even in the beginning, when they were at their breakfast scenes, it just seemed like it was a whole filler scene. They talked about Amelia and Bennett, him saying YOLO. He didn't really know what it meant. I'm not too sure if I believe him or not. And then the only couple I was really interested in for the morning scene was Olivia and Brett. Because we found out, well, Olivia found out, that he just left his relationship not longer than a year ago. But to me, Olivia just seems like she's okay with everything. She's like, yeah, that. It kind of like went through her mind, but it didn't really process it. I'm like, man, this is a red flag. Because when she was talking about how she was in a relationship for 3 years, he was like, well, that's odd. No, sir. It's not odd.
It's not odd, but not only it was his major relationship where he was engaged, but he just went on a date 2 days before they were matched. And she was like, so what made you not go on your third date? He's like, because I got matched.
Right.
So that is also a red flag.
I didn't see any bells go off for her. It was only like Brett's like, well, that's weird that she did that. But she was like, I wanted to take time for myself.
Yeah, I think
that's okay. Brett?
I think she's a hopeless romantic. But the conversations I was looking forward to was...
You got 2 conversations?
Yes. Karen and Miles and Henry and Christina. Because there's a communication factor on both couples. From Karen, who's still standoffish, still not really sure what's going on, or not going on, but why she's there or why he's here. You know, did she make the right decision? Versus Henry, who's so reserved, so introverted, like he's just like, yeah.
Yeah, that breakfast scene with Henry and Christina was awkward. Yeah. That Christina had to start the conversation, but to me, it kind of felt like Christina was actually genuinely trying. As to Karen, I don't feel like she's trying at all. Only thing I think she's looking for is the benefits and the outcomes that she can get from it.
Then we move on to Amelia and Bennett. They decided they're going to go swimming for the morning. It seems like they do that every morning, to be honest.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would too.
You're vacationing.
You're honeymooning.
Oh. Was that just for Karen? She's on a vacation.
So who shows up? Amani and Woody. They're like, hey. So they go swimming with them too. I was like, I wonder if anybody else is going to show up. But they didn't. It was just those two. And what both couples knows about each other are how well they both seem to match and mesh.
Really? Because it seemed like Woody was just worried about Bennett being in his drawers in the pool.
Well,
I would have been worried about that too. Like, Ben, like, we need to get you together.
I mean, did you expect anything less? What did you think he was going to swim in? I mean, he sleeps in a dress, so what was he going to swim in?
Unless he's going to nightgown.
Okay. Well, while they're swimming, they're connecting, they're having a good time, the vibe is there, and all of a sudden, oh no, I lost my ring. Woody lost his ring.
See, it's not really a problem that he lost his ring. It's not like it's the ring that Olivia gave Brett, that diamond ring. Then, that would have been an issue. But I'm glad that Amani didn't press the issue about it, because we've seen that on another Married at First Sight where she just got so mad because he lost it in the sand. I couldn't imagine if that was her this season, but it's not. But Woody was happy about that too, that she wasn't mad about it. So that definitely shows her cool, calm, and collected side.
Yeah, I agree. But when they went to the room, you know what? Amani's like, you want to take a shower with me? I was like, okay. So we're starting things off hot.
I know. I thought they was going to boom boom. But Amani says she's not ready to swing that way because she wants to build a connection just off of them vibing, truthfully, than, just having a sex connection and it just not taking off anywhere after that. Which I can
agree.
understand.
Now, later in the evening, all the couples meet up for drinks. And they're all sitting around, they're talking about, so, how's it going for you? How's it going for you? What's the connection? What's the connection? And again, people seem to notice how Amani and Woody are vibing. And they're saying...
People or Christina? Because Christina, the moderator, was noticing how different couples were vibing, unlike her and Henry. And I detected some hate. I was like, Christina, I was just about to start liking you.
You were?
Yeah, because like I said earlier, I felt like she was being genuine with Henry, with trying to get him to be open in new experiences, because Henry is just so standoffish and reserved, but at the same time try to be like prestige. He kind of reminds me of Tim from 90 Day Fiancé Pillow Talk.
Tim has much more character than Henry. So
I said kind of.
Maybe in the pristine part. And Christina did notice how well they were getting along. And I'm not sure who it was. We're like, well, let's not compare. Let's not compare. And I agree. You can't compare your relationships. Everyone is still pretty much a stranger. Everyone's still trying to get to know each other.
I think that was Christina.
Certain couples do have a better vibe than others, which is true. But I was surprised that Henry in his confessional said that, you know, he wasn't feeling Brett. Because he remembered all the things that Brett was doing at that bachelor party. And he was just like, you know what? I'm not here for it. And I hope he doesn't let Olivia down because she seems like a nice lady.
Why were you surprised by that?
By Henry? Because he doesn't communicate with Christina. And for that to be in his mind, like that was the only thing he thought of. Not like, oh, how's everybody doing?
Also, I thought it was pretty interesting that Brett and Olivia, well, mostly Olivia, said that they were actually having a connection and a bond. And I'm like, I don't see the connection.
Well, that's her hopeless romantic kind of thing.
But also in this meetup, Mom, did you catch when Miles and Karen said that they're each other's strangers now?
I did, and I'm not surprised. And who initiated the stranger thing, Karen or Miles?
Who do you think? The one that he calls the cougar. Her, which I don't think that's cool. I thought it was funny that her comeback was, oh, well, did your mom sign a permission slip for you to come on this show?
Oh, yeah. I thought that was funny, too.
I was like, she might have.
Probably.
Knowing the mom.
After that, Amani and Woody are at dinner, and they talk about how they feel like they're the couple that's vibing the most, and they are. Don't you think so?
Yeah, it's true. Besides Amelia and Bennett.
True. And just overall how things are going. Well, the conversation comes up with Amani about past relationships. And she mentions how, you know, she's looking for love, but she's scared because the relationship she just got out of, well, her most recent relationship she got out of was how he had a baby and he was married. She couldn't commit to someone right now because her heart just wasn't in it. And she's just looking for someone who will give her their all, like she's going to give it to them.
You know what? I honestly love her because she was so transparent with this whole thing. It's only been 4 days. She's been the most open out of all the female cast here, talking about her relationship, her past relationships. And I also really enjoyed the fact that she said, you know, even though that man put that hurt on me, I'm not going to do that to you. And I was like, where were you last season?
Exactly.
We've been looking for you on this kind of show. The experts did that this time.
Well, hopefully she's with the right match too. And Woody said, you know what? I'm sorry that happened to you, but went on to explain that, you know, he's messed up along the way. He's done his own BS and he's cheated too, but he's in this for the long haul. And I believe he wants to be married.
I do too. And I usually don't be believing people on this show or in general too often, but I really believe in this couple, and I'm gonna have to change my vote for no to yes on this couple making it.
Amani asked, what makes me different? Woody said, well, you know, it's time for me to settle down now. I'm older and I got married, so I'm gonna give you the best. And I appreciate that. You know, he said more, but pretty much the best of what I got to be the best husband for you.
The best man he can be.
The best of the best. After dinner, they head to the room, and Amani says again, you want to take a shower with me? And I'm like, you know what? This shower thing is becoming something.
All right? I'm like, what is going down in the shower? Are we ever going to find out? Or is that too much for TV?
Now we have Karen and Miles. They're at the pool. They're having their nice dinner. Miles just wants to know from Karen, what do you think about me? Miles says, do you feel I'm more than like acquaintance or something like that?
No, you're strangers who know each other.
Well,
protect each other.
Well, no, now they're a stranger acquaintance. I think that's the name they gave each other.
Okay.
So Karen's still a little awkward, and she goes on to say, I understand that we're married and all, but when I woke up this morning, I looked around and was like, I know I'm on my honeymoon, but I don't know if I feel that way.
See, do you genuinely believe, even though it's day 4, that she's still awkward? Or do you think she just isn't feeling this at the moment?
I think she's awkward and not feeling it at the moment just by her history, just by the things that she says and the things she's experienced. Because she asked Miles, how do you think, or how do you know that you're ready? And he explains the fact how he wants to be like his grandparents. They've been married over 55 years. He wants to be that kind of man. He wants to be that kind of husband. Mm-hmm. And then when Karen responds as to why she wants to, she says pretty much that she also, like Imani, is scared because she was in a relationship prior where the man not only cheated on her, he had a baby with the person, I'm not sure if it's one he cheated on, but had an outside baby.
Would that be a deal breaker for you, Mom?
That is absolutely a deal breaker.
Yeah, so I can see why she's holding some reservations, but at the same time, I'm still going to go back to when she basically IG stalked him. Mm-hmm. After that point, it just seemed like she wasn't really with doing the show anymore. And to me, it's like, well, you never know what you're going to get. It's pretty much a luck of a draw. So you have to be open to be on the show. But to touch on Miles, so I don't dislike Miles. I think he's a gentleman and all the other stuff. But I just feel like there's another layer. Just as Karen said, he can be a perfect gentleman, a Prince Charming, but be somebody completely different later on. I had to question myself for a minute too. I was like, am I Karen? Ooh, is that me? But it's not though. But I thought it was also interesting that in his 10 relationships that he had, mm-hmm. he said he did it because, he's not a serial dater. He just wants to be in a relationship with someone to be married. But I'm just like, that's a serial dater. You're just in a relationship that he wanted to build to be a better man. Mm-hmm. So clearly his relationships weren't perfect. So I'm kind of wondering what other aspect was there on his end to be in 10 different relationships at 26.
I think, he said that his intent of dating was to date to get married. And because his parents broke up when he was small, that might be an issue for him.
So did you finally get your answer?
Well, I went back in other episodes, had to rewatch, and they aren't married. But that might be an underlying issue for Miles, why he feels he needs to be married to everyone he's dated. And that his grandparents are the inspiration because they had such a long relationship versus his parents. He sees the grandparents as something to strive for. But that's not for everybody. I mean, you may have a relationship that long. You might not. It's not just up to you. It's up to the other person to come together with you too.
So then we saw Amelia and Bennett in their hotel room. Of course, Bennett has his nightgown on. And I'm like, Amelia, girl, why do you have your outside clothes on the bed while he's in his pajamas?
Well, what she said was, hey, do you want your dress?
She did try to clown her man. But then they got into the deep conversations for the day. Mm-hmm. And we found out that Bennett's mom had cancer for most of his childhood, which caused him to have trauma. And he said he was obsessed with
immortality.
Yes, that I was thinking of the word. And I was like, I feel a little bit sorry for Bennett. But I'm glad he pushed through it. His family pushed through it. And he seems like he turned out very nicely for Amelia because Amelia is head over heels for Bennett. But then we found out something about Amelia is that her mom wasn't around a lot for when she was little because her mom was also doing med school. So now I'm like, okay, I can see why she got into med school.
Well, before you continue, maybe that's why he doesn't throw things away, talks to rocks, stuff like that, because he said he was so focused about immortality at a young age. I think that's why. I really do.
True. Hopefully the experts get on their job and start counseling people this season, because who knows where they're at. Later on, we see them outside playing chess. And what I thought was the most important part of their whole conversation was Amelia once again going into details about her relationships in the past and how they didn't really work out because, you know, she's independent. She looks for someone else who's independent, and they're just both two independent people that they got to part ways. And Bennett was like, could you explain that a little bit deeper? Like, what do you mean by that?
Right.
She was basically like, you know, I pretty much do my own thing. If they're not with it, she got to cut it off. Where Bennett is more so the person who gives so much in a relationship that he said other people have a tendency to feel bad.
No, he said to feel guilty. And I was like, well, what is it that you do to make people feel guilty? Like, are you with people who's not giving you anything in return or just like using you?
That's what it sounds like. And in relation to Amelia and her independent woman, which, you know, never knock that. But like I said last episode, me personally, in my opinion, I feel like it's really selfish for her to come on this show to look to be married with someone while you know 100% that you're going to have to travel and move again for med school, travel for residency, and just a whole bunch of more traveling. So that means the experts would have to find someone who's going to be willing to do all that traveling. And I don't think a lot of people would be willing to do all that traveling if they're on this kind of marriage show, because they're usually looking to settle down somewhere. But I think they might have found that in Bennett. What do you think, Mom?
Well, what I think is, I'm surprised that you still seem like she was selfish, because as far as I'm concerned, almost everyone on Married at First Sight, regardless of the season, has been selfish in some kind of way, from either past relationships that they just got out of, friends they were talking to on the low.
You preaching right now.
All kind of stuff. So Amelia and residency, I don't think that's selfish, because she's a medical student graduate. To be a doctor, you have to do residency. So who's to say Bennett doesn't want to travel? I mean, he does theatrics and things like that. Maybe he doesn't want to go right now, because he did question, like, you know, are you going to go now, or when you're done, where will you settle down? So he wants to have roots, but that's not selfish. There's other things we could think of that was selfish.
Well, the next day, we also see Henry and Christina. And Christina, once again, is taking Henry out because he kind of doesn't want to do anything much.
Right. But before we talk about what they did the next day, why were they the only couple we didn't see the night before, like having dinner or drinks? Did they just like go to bed?
We didn't need to see them if they weren't going to have any conversation. They already drew this whole episode out. So anyways, we see them. They actually look like, well, Christina looked like she was having a good time.
Yeah.
Henry later on said he was having a good time, but you couldn't really tell because he was complaining about the trampoline. I'm like, how can you complain about a trampoline? Henry, do you not trampoline jump?
Henry doesn't do anything. What does he do but watch the Patriots? Clearly, that's his favorite team.
The only thing I would have been kind of tripping about is like the mud water.
No.
But if it's a free honeymoon, I was about to say vacation, I mean, might as well do anything and everything, you know? As the words of Bennett, YOLO.
It's not like he didn't know where they were going. Christina was like, oh, we're going here and there. But on the way, though, did you notice the little town they went through? There was all on a slant. I thought that was cool, and it was nice and colorful.
I thought it was cool, too. I'm just hoping Henry thought it was cool as well.
No, he didn't. But after it was over, Christina was like, oh, so what happened? You didn't want to, like, float or anything like that? He was like, no. Like, you didn't want to get your hair wet? And Henry's confession was like, you know, I kind of had fun. I didn't like getting dirty, and he didn't want to get his hair wet. But he was looking forward to do other activities that did involve mud. I'm like,
what other activities is he into besides politics, like his dad said? I'm actually very curious to know.
Well, I'm going to give the pun. Henry, you were a stick in the mud. Now we have Olivia and Brett. So Olivia's saying to Brett, okay, I'm going to brush my teeth. Are you going to brush yours? She's like, yeah. Well, don't brush it without me. We got to brush our teeth together. Like, really? That's all you're waiting on?
Olivia, I'm not going to say she's head over heels for Brett because she's not. I just think she really wants this to work out and she's really trying hard. And at some moments, it looks like Brett is trying, but I'm not too sure if he's trying genuinely or doing it for the camera.
I thought the same thing too. I was like, Brett, you kind of look like you're trying. You're saying nice things about Olivia, but there's always that but factor.
There is.
With Brett. So after they brush their teeth together, they're in the bed, they're talking about their day and different little things that they like and dislike. And one of the things Olivia brings up is, so, have you ever peed in front of somebody? Brett's like, no. Like, ugh. Well, have you ever peed in the shower? He's like, gross. He's like, so you're telling me that you don't like suitcases on the bed, but you pee in the shower? She's like, yeah, everybody pees in the shower sometimes. It's like, no.
But Brett's telling me they're talking about peeing in the shower, but he doesn't want to talk about their intimate relationships in front of the other couples.
Hey, that is private, so I can understand where he's coming from, or any couple's coming from that. But they do get into the relationship factor, and Olivia asks him, when or how long was it that you've been engaged? That conversation comes up again. And he was like, less than a year. And she's like, why did you break up? Things like that. And you know what? Brett gives the answer, but I think he gives a answer that I think she wants to hear. Because Brett is a serial dater, and Olivia knows this. And she's not comfortable with it at all.
Well, I'm not going to say it was an answer that she wanted to hear. I'll say it was an answer that he didn't really go into too much detail about. Because the only thing he said was the girl that he was engaged to cheated on him. They rekindled, had another go at it. Would you let that happen?
No.
But then after that, she cheated again. So I'm just like, I'm not too sure if I really buy this answer or if it's really 100% true, because him doing that and then after they broke up becoming a serial dater up until 2 days he got matched, and who knows how long before the bachelorette party, as we saw, or the wedding, he was probably still talking to people. So I don't know if I'm really buying this answer from Brett.
Well, he did give that answer to the guys too in the beginning about the cheating thing, but he didn't
get your story straight.
But he didn't give the specifics, and I still think he gave it to Olivia, the nice version, just by the way he said it. So we'll have to see with that. So the next day on their excursion, what did they do? An obstacle course. I'm like, you're in Mexico. That's what you want to do? But okay. So she does the monkey bars, and he does the regular hand one. I don't know what you call it. And somehow he rips the calluses off his hands. But he still continues trying to be a good sport. They do the obstacles course, and that was their day. I was like, okay.
I did not care about him getting no calluses on his hands.
Well, it turned out when they got to the room that he really did hurt himself, and he had to get bandaged by the medic. So he wasn't making it up, because at first I was like, oh, he's making it up. Because she's in the medical field, so I'm like, if she saw it, maybe she's like, oh, maybe you do need to get bandaged. But he was really hurt. So outside of that, I don't know. They're trying, I guess.
I mean, I guess. The most interesting scene to me of this whole episode is when we saw Miles, Woody, Imani, and Karen all meet up. I thought it was interesting that Miles and Karen made stranger bracelets. I was like, how childish is this? It was so childish, but Karen wants to be on this man's insurance.
She wants to know what kind of benefits. You coming into this, I need to know what you got. No, you can't have it those kind of ways. You can't be, not wanting to be with him. You're nervous. You want to be stranger, acquaintances, besties. He's too young for you, but he's not too young for you to be on his insurance plan. Oh my gosh. If you keep going down the list, we're going to be here all night.
Karen lets them know that Miles keeps calling her a cougar. And she's not happy with it. She doesn't think it's funny at all. She's laughing, but she doesn't think it's funny. But Imani was like, this is my friend, so whatever you gotta say, I'm gonna bust you upside the head.
And Woody's like, come on, bro, that's your wife. Why you gotta be like that? And Mom's like, he just don't see nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't want to be called a cougar either.
Well, their trip was to do an excursion, like a ski boat, a fast boat on the water.
Speedboat.
I said ski boat, but I would not been here for it. I don't like anything fast, and I don't like anything fast on water that looks like that's going to tip over. Life jacket or not.
Well, we've never been on a speedboat, but the way that the camera was going, it did look like it was a little closer to them cliffs, didn't it?
It did, but they had fun and they enjoyed it. So at the end of the night, when they both went their separate ways, I think Imani and Woody might get some boom boom in this session.
You know what? You've been saying it a lot lately. Why? Because she wants to have another shower to save water?
That, and because she said that she wanted to be touched, I was like, yeah, I think it might be about that time. But I appreciate how Woody, once again, isn't really pressuring her, but you know that he's ready. It's all that he kind of really talks about. Also, at the end of the show, we see Miles and Karen, and Miles suggested, let's go lay out in the hammock. And Karen was like, okay. I was surprised because I thought she would have went to bed by herself.
Well, I think that it was a nice gesture for Karen. I mean, they had a nice day. You have to try. Eventually, you have to try. Because if you don't want to try...
You don't have to try.
Well, from previous seasons, you don't have to try. But if you want things to try to be friendly, you have to start out willing to accommodate, to give a little bit. He's not asking for much. He's asking you for communication. Are you going to call this a husband-wife thing? I'm sure he's not cool with a stranger acquaintance, but he'll take it. But just a little thing like, lay with me in the hammock. I mean, you don't have to stay there all night, just for a little bit.
All right, everyone. So that was the end of this week's episode. And this week's episode really drug out. But you know what? I am actually really excited to see next episode because I need some conclusions on Brett and Olivia, because I think Olivia is finally starting to see the light and having those red flags go off, because this whole time she's just been like, so, okay, Brett, okay, but I think she's peeping onto something.
Yes, it drug out a little bit. That's what it does for the honeymoon. Things don't really pick up till they get home and they live together. I'm waiting on that. But if they're still on the honeymoon next week, true. Olivia seems like she has learned something about Brett that she doesn't like. And Bennett has to make a decision whether he wants to travel with Amelia. And Christina and Henry, is he really gonna open up during the honeymoon or whatever? Everybody else seems to be moving along.
So let us know what you guys thought about this week's episode in the comments down below, or what you think is going to happen in next week's episode. So thank you all so much for watching. Please make sure you give this video a thumbs up. You also share this video to other people who watch Married at First Sight. And you hit that subscribe button, because right now we're doing a giveaway. So make sure you enter into that giveaway until we hit 500 subscribers.
Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, live simply, be grateful.